graduation requirements.
Mhm.
I mean, according to the paperwork, it's going to let us know, how our students think, how, if whether they're able to think critically or not, whether they're able to, synthesize information. Now, as a language arts teacher, I would tell you that we teach those skills and assess those skills, throughout the year. And so, just going back to part of our earlier discussion, the HESPA, we knew for a fact, was a graduation requirement. And so it necessitated, everyone, to take it. You had to take it to graduate. And so far, the PARC test hasn't been deemed as a marker for graduation. So it's another, question as to, why we're doing this. And I think it leads, the fact that we don't have those answers, leaves it open to, those of us who might be considered, conspiracy theorists, or those who think that, again, corporate, sponsored, education is more about making money than educating students.
Now, it's also my other question.
No.
It also says that teachers and support staff will be pulled out of the regular classes to proctor the test for up to 40 school days. I mean, with missing snow days, I mean, if you live in this part of United States of America, and then having teachers and support staff being pulled out of the class for 40 days, I mean, that's a significant amount of time that being dedicated to a test.
And the way it will work, probably, I'm thinking probably because of the fact that the grade levels will be staggered. So, for example, like the 11th graders will test during the week of March 2nd. There will probably be all of the 11th grade teachers will be, administering, the test because their students won't be in their classes. Like I teach 11th grade English, right? And so if my students are testing during the week of March 2nd, and I'm not teaching any English classes, they're going to have me.
So you would go
I will be proctoring one of the tests, or,
right.
I might request to be in the room where the kids who aren't testing and just let me, I might request to monitor them. But I will definitely be, all of us, 11th grade teachers. And so that would probably happen for each of the grade levels. But yeah, that could be prep time,
Now, I don't know if you know if this is true. Is it true that the PARC scores are being tied to teacher evaluation? And is that fair if it's being tied to teacher evaluation? I mean, if that means to say that you expect great results from your kids.
Right.
And if your kids don't score well, then you suffer the consequences.
Right.
Do you know if that?
Last night, after Matthew Malaspina spoke, right, the sixth grader from South Orange, I believe it was Ms. Grierson, and then I think she repeated it even during the board discussion that that also, in addition to academic placement, that the results would not be used, in any type of summative evaluation for teachers. I think next year, or as the test transitions, that it will be. I think they said one part of the overall.
They're going to slip it in the middle of the night when all the teachers are sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. So, my response to that is I would rather be assessed or judged or observed on my regular teaching. Like come and see me on a daily basis.
I agree with you.
See me at my
rather than some kid taking a test. The kid may have a bad night.
One day,
the kid may not have slept well the night before.
Right.
The kid may come to school and hungry, and you getting punished for that kid's performance.
Right. And even I'd even go as far to say is even during regular classroom evaluations, like there's no guarantee that it's going to go well, it's going to go perfect. But because that's my daily environment, like you could even see me work through a problem.
Yeah,
Let's say if a kid is acting up or if something's wrong, like see how I work through that problem as a teacher, as opposed to having this kid take a test and then his or her value as well as mine as a teacher are all determined on this high stakes test. I don't think that's
but we have to agree that the PARC is not all negative, though. Being that the PARC is now an online test, I guess schools had to purchase more computers or had to purchase more technology, in order for these kids to take this online test. So, I mean, I guess that's a pro, as far as the test is concerned.
Well, I'd like TJ to explain, because I think you saw a sample test or something. And I believe you were telling me something like, you had to maybe take a sentence and move it. Can you, explain that for the listeners?
Part of the technology that A&M-Thomas is talking about, the Chromebooks are a new technology.
Before you go, is Chrome is Google, right?
Yes.
Oh, I was wondering if some of Chromebook is associated with Pearson.
I'm sure they're all in. And I'm just not, okay.
You know what I mean?
In order for you to take the park, you have to buy the Chromebook.
We want these 45 states to implement the park test. So we know these schools going to have to get new technology. Another rich company is getting richer. Go ahead.
No, so just as part of the technological requirements, students will, as opposed to just clicking on one of four choices, for a multiple choice, they'll have to drag and drop, choices into a box. There are some multiple choice questions where you might have 10 options, and then you have to move and drag and drop 3 choices into a box. They have to navigate screens, and so technologically, it's supposed to benefit our students because they're in the information age, and they were born with their computers and their phones in their hands. However, I'm not sure that the level of navigation and focus is going to be attended to by all of our students. I'll give you another example. We did a practice in preparation for our midterm. We reviewed one of the synthesis essays, right, where the students have to take 3 sources, right, and they have to write an essay, based off a topic using 2 or more of the sources. This particular topic was on the history of gaming, video games, and one of the sources was a 3-minute video on the history of gaming, and it took you from the earliest video games all the way up to today's video games, including the change in televisions and joysticks, etc. One of the first things I said to the students, before we began watching the practice video was, you can't get caught up in watching the video like you're just watching a television program. This is an information source, and so while you're watching this, you have to take notes, as if you're going to use this source to write an essay. We say it no sooner do I start the video, and there's these old video games, or some of the video games that the students played when they were kids, and so many of them got caught up in watching the video almost like it was a television program, as opposed to it being an information source. And so now when we finished, we verbally and orally did what they were supposed to do during the video, but that's just one small example of how, again, depending on what kind of source they have, although our kids are always used to watching videos, like I told Marjorie, it's a difference when you're sitting at home in your bed or in the living room and you're just, watching the video and you're playing, as opposed to, again, a high-stakes test, right, that, you may determine, again, your level placement, or your graduation at some point. And so the technology, I think, can go both ways. I think, that can go both ways.
So
I'm sorry. And I wouldn't assume that every student knew how to drag and drop information or text from one spot to another, or even navigate multiple screens. And so, to assume that they all have the same skills, the same level of skills, or interested in even having those skills, I think that's incorrect in a fallacy.
No. Here is the part that you were talking about, TJ. May I up my child out of park? No. Park is part of the state and federally funded program of the education provided to your child at high school. We are looking forward to using our student park to learn more about how and what we are teaching and how and what students are learning here at Columbia High School. So that's what it says. That's what the PowerPoint presentation says. So we have been able to develop concordant cut scores for additional substitute assessment that our school currently utilizes. For the classes of 2016, 17, and 18, students will be able to demonstrate proficiency in ELA and math by meeting one of the criteria in each of the columns below. New Jersey Department of Education. What does it say here? Passing score on Park ELA is 9, or passing score on Park Algebra is 1. And it just tells you graduation requirement, classes of 2016, 17, and 18. So what they're telling you is that in 2016, 17, and 18, you're going to have to pass the Park in order for you to graduate. If not, cancel Christmas. What will the Park be used to do? This is from the PowerPoint presentation now. Graduation requirement, state and school. Cut scores not determined yet by Park, by state of New Jersey. Results this summer or early fall. Help us see students' areas of growth and success, areas for more growth. Well, I guess, TJ, as you said, that they said that you can opt out. So maybe they changed their mind since yesterday.
Well, no, this was the principal's PowerPoint that presentation was January 21st, right? And last night, the board discussion contradicted this because they said that parents can, opt out. They just have to determine whether there's going to be a formal policy that notifies them, or not.
Yeah.
So I think that may be why. I'm not sure that the PowerPoint presentation is any longer on the district website. When I look for it this morning.
I can check right now. Yeah. But there is also a parent refusal of standardized testing. This is on the district website. Policy to be decided, parent refusal of standardized testing. The South Orange Maple Board of Education understands the value of state testing as one component, among many, to assess students' performance and to ensure accountability at the district level as it relates to student achievement. The South Orange Maple Board of Education is mandated by the state of New Jersey to administer certain statewide assessment, including the Partnership of Assessment of Readiness for College and Career, better known as PARC, to students in the district. And the South Orange Maple Board of Education recognizes that some parents choose to have their child decline to take one or more of the standardized tests.
No. Where are you reading from? Here on the district's website?
It's on the district website. It is the policy, I tell you it is just now. It is the policy of the South Orange Maple Board of Education that such parental decision should be met with educationally appropriate and non-punitive responses. The superintendent is directed to establish a procedure in accordance with this policy. First reading was February 2nd, 2015. That was last night. If you go to the Board of Education website, and you go over to the Board of Education update, go to Board of Education update under District News and Notes, right? You click on that, and then you're going to come to Board of Education update, and then if you go down about the last third bullet is policy. And that is where you have that policy. So that is something that was discussed last night. And it was the first reading on February the 2nd. So the next meeting of the board will take place on Monday, February the 23rd. So if that will be the second reading, I think.
And they vote.
And then there's adoption. So